The laughter started on a Tuesday. Tadesse Worku was standing outside his restaurant holding a hand-painted sign that read, "Grand Opening, Makita's Kitchen, Ethiopian Home Cooking." His English was broken, his clothes were worn, his shoes were old, and his accent was so thick that most Americans asked him to repeat himself twice before giving up and nodding politely. The sign was crooked. The restaurant was small. 4 tables, plastic chairs, paper menus printed at the library for 9 cents each. And across the street, the owner of Hale's Prime Steakhouse was standing on the sidewalk with his wife watching, arms folded, smirking. "Is that the taxi driver?" Diane Hale asked. Victor Hale didn't answer right away. He just stared at Tadesse struggling to prop the sign against the window. Then he laughed. Not a small laugh. A loud, full laugh that carried across the parking lot. Tadesse heard it. He didn't look up. He just adjusted the sign, straightened his apron, and walked back inside to finish setting up the tables his wife would never see. Because Makita was gone, and this restaurant was all he had left of her. What Victor Hale didn't know, what nobody on that street knew, was that the quiet taxi driver with the crooked sign had built and sold 42 restaurants across East Africa for $180 million. And he was about to buy every building on this block. If you believe fate always has a plan for the ones they laugh at, subscribe and hit that bell, because this taxi driver is about to teach this entire street a lesson they will never forget. Every great love story has a kitchen. Tadesse and Makita's was no different. They met in Addis Ababa in 1995. Tadesse was 24. Makita was 22. He was working as a line cook in a hotel restaurant. She walked in looking for a job as a hostess. She didn't get the hostess job. She got something better. She got Tadesse. He fell in love with her on a Wednesday. She was standing in the hotel kitchen watching him prepare Doro Wat, the rich Ethiopian chicken stew that her grandmother had made every Sunday when she was a child. He made it differently than her grandmother. He added a touch of cardamom. She told him it was wrong. "My grandmother would slap your hand," she said. "Your grandmother isn't here," he replied. Then I'll slap it for her." He changed the recipe the next day. He used her grandmother's version. Makita tasted it and smiled. That smile stayed with him for the rest of his life. They married in 1997. They opened their first restaurant together in 1999, a tiny space in Addis Ababa's Mercado district, with 6 tables and a kitchen the size of a closet. Makita ran the front. Tadesse ran the kitchen. They served her grandmother's recipes and his additions. The combination was perfect. Within 3 years, they had 4 locations. Within 7 years, they had 12. By 2010, the Worku Restaurant Group operated 42 restaurants across Ethiopia, Kenya, Tanzania, and Rwanda. They employed over 2,000 people. Their annual revenue exceeded $40 million. Tadesse was featured in African business magazines. He was invited to speak at conferences. He was called the Quiet King of East African cuisine. But Tadesse never cared about the title. He cared about the kitchen, and he cared about Makita. In 2019, Makita was diagnosed with stage 3 ovarian cancer. The diagnosis came on a Tuesday. Tadesse would later realize that the worst and best days of his life always fell on Tuesdays. He sold the restaurant empire within 4 months. Every location, every brand, every recipe book. $180 million. He kept nothing except Makita's grandmother's handwritten recipe notebook, a worn leather journal with stained pages and notes in Amharic that smelled like Berber spice and love. He moved Makita to Dallas for treatment at UT Southwestern Medical Center. They rented a small 1-bedroom apartment in the Oak Cliff neighborhood. Tadesse bought a used taxi, a dented blue Crown Victoria, and started driving to pay for the things insurance didn't cover. For 2 years, he drove that taxi 7 days a week. He picked up businessmen who talked on their phones like he wasn't there. He drove college students who didn't tip. He navigated Dallas freeways in the rain and the heat and the dark. And every night he came home and cooked for Makita. Her grandmother's recipes. The Doro Wat. The Kitfo. The Injera. He cooked them perfectly because she had taught him, and he remembered every instruction. Makita died on a Tuesday in March 2022. Before she died, she held his hand and said 5 sentences that would determine the rest of his life. "Don't go back to the empire, Tadesse. Don't build another chain. Take my mother's recipes and feed people with them. Not for money, for love. Promise me." He promised. And Tadesse Worku, the man worth $180 million, continued driving his taxi and started looking for the smallest restaurant space he could find. He found it in a strip mall on Garland Road in East Dallas. The space was 800 square feet. It had been a dry cleaner before that. The walls were beige. The floor was cracked tile. The kitchen was barely functional. The rent was $1,900 a month. It was perfect. Tadesse signed the lease on a Monday. He spent 3 weeks renovating the space himself. He painted the walls warm yellow. He installed a simple kitchen. He bought 4 tables and 16 plastic chairs from a discount furniture store. He printed menus on plain white paper at the public library. He hung one framed photograph on the wall behind the counter. Makeda, smiling, standing in the kitchen of their first restaurant in Addis Ababa, 1999. He named the restaurant Makeda's Kitchen. On opening day, he stood outside with his crooked hand-painted sign and waited. His first customer arrived at 11:45 a.m. Her name was Almaz Desta, 38 years old, Eritrean American, a registered nurse at Baylor University Medical Center. She lived 3 blocks away and had never seen the space occupied before. She walked in expecting nothing. The plastic chairs, the paper menus, the old man behind the counter in a worn apron with a thick accent who greeted her like she was the most important person in the world. "Welcome. You are my first. Please, sit anywhere. Everything is free today." Almaz sat down. She ordered the Doro Wat. The first bite made her close her eyes. It tasted like her grandmother's kitchen in Asmara. It tasted like Sunday afternoons and family prayers and the clink of coffee cups. It tasted like home. "Where did you learn to cook like this?" she asked. Tadesse smiled. "My wife taught me." "She taught you well." "Where is she?" Tadesse looked at the photograph on the wall. Almaz understood. She didn't ask anything else. She finished every bite on her plate. She left a $20 tip on a free meal. And she came back the next day. And the next. And every day after that. Within a month, Makeda's Kitchen had 40 regular customers. Within 2 months, it had 100. The food was extraordinary. The prices were low. And Tadesse treated every person who walked through his door like family. Word spread through the neighborhood, through the Ethiopian community, through the Eritrean community, through the Nigerian community, through the Mexican community, through the Black American community. Makeda's Kitchen didn't serve a demographic. It served a neighborhood, and the neighborhood loved it back. But across the street, someone was watching, and he was not happy. Victor Hale had owned Hale's Prime for 12 years. It was his pride, his identity, his kingdom. Dark wood, leather booths, an 18-foot mahogany bar, a whiskey collection worth $40,000 displayed behind glass, ice steaks dry-aged for 45 days, an average dinner check of $120 per person. Victor had built his reputation on exclusivity. His restaurant was where Dallas dealmakers ate, where real estate closings were celebrated, where old money brought new money to be impressed. And now there was a taxi driver across the street serving chicken stew on plastic plates for $12. Victor's contempt started quietly. Comments to his wife over breakfast. "Did you see that place? Paper menus, plastic chairs. It looks like a refugee camp." Diane agreed. "It's going to attract the wrong crowd. Our customers will notice." Within weeks, Victor's contempt turned into action. Step 1. He called the Dallas County Health Department and filed a complaint. He reported unsanitary food preparation conditions and visible pest activity at Makeda's Kitchen. Both claims were fabricated. He had never stepped foot inside Tadesse's restaurant. Step 2. He visited Frank Moody, the landlord who owned the strip mall. Victor brought a bottle of Macallan 18, Frank's favorite, and sat in his cluttered office. "Frank, that restaurant is bringing down the whole block. My customers are complaining about the smell. The parking lot is getting crowded with people who aren't spending money at real businesses. You need to raise his rent." Frank was weak. Frank was greedy. Frank raised Tadesse's rent from $1,900 to $2,800 per month, a 47% increase with 30 days' notice. Step 3. Victor organized the other strip mall businesses. He visited each one personally: the nail salon, the phone repair shop, the insurance office. His message was the same everywhere. Don't associate with that restaurant. Don't send customers there. Don't be friendly. The faster he fails, the better it is for all of us. Most of them complied. They were afraid of Victor. He was loud. He was connected. He knew the landlord. One of them didn't comply. Rosa Gutierrez had owned Rosa's Blooms, a small flower shop, in that strip mall for 9 years. She was 51 years old, Mexican-American. She had built her business from nothing after her divorce. She knew what it felt like to be small in a world that rewards loud. Our Victor came to her shop and delivered his speech. Rosa listened politely. When he finished, she said one sentence. "I'll think about it." She didn't think about it. The next morning, she brought a small vase of yellow flowers to Makita's kitchen and set it on Tedes's counter. "For your tables," she said. "Yellow means friendship." Tedes's eyes filled with tears. He placed the flowers on the table nearest Makita's photograph. Rosa brought fresh flowers every week after that. She never told Victor. She never told anyone. She just brought flowers. The health inspector arrived on a Thursday morning. James Okonkwo pulled up to the strip mall in his county vehicle with a clipboard and a bad feeling. He had read the complaint. Unsanitary conditions. Pest activity. He had seen these complaints before, usually from competitors trying to shut down small businesses. He walked into Makita's kitchen and found Tedessa behind the counter preparing injera on a clean stainless steel surface. The kitchen was small but spotless. The refrigerator was organized by date. The hand-washing station had soap and paper towels. The floors were mopped. The food storage was properly labeled. James spent 90 minutes inspecting every surface, every container, every temperature log. He found 0 violations. Not one. He sat down with Tedess after the inspection. "Mr. Worku, your kitchen is one of the cleanest I've inspected this year. Whoever filed this complaint had no basis. I'll be noting that in my report." Tedess nodded. "Thank you. Would you like to eat?" "On the house." James hesitated. He wasn't supposed to accept gifts from businesses he inspected, but something about the old man's face, the kindness, the quiet dignity, made him sit down. He ordered the Doro Wat. He understood immediately why people drove across Dallas to eat here. "Mr. Worku, this is exceptional. My wife's recipe, her grandmother's before that." James looked at the photograph on the wall. He understood. His official report did 2 things. It cleared Makita's kitchen of all allegations, and it flagged the complaint as potentially fraudulent, noting that the specificity of the claims did not match the condition of the establishment and recommending a review of the complaint source. Our Victor received a call from the health department 2 days later, informing him that his complaint had been dismissed and that filing false reports could result in penalties. He hung up the phone and turned red. "That inspector was probably one of them," he told Diane. "They protect each other." Diane nodded. "We need to go bigger." They went bigger. Victor convinced Frank Moody to serve Tedess an eviction notice. The grounds were fabricated. Alleged lease violations related to unauthorized signage and exceeding permitted occupancy. The sign was the hand-painted board Tedess put outside every morning. The occupancy claim was based on a single busy Saturday night when the restaurant had 22 customers, in a space permitted for 24. Frank drafted the notice on Victor's instructions. 30 days to vacate. When Tedess received the notice, he read it slowly. His English wasn't strong enough for legal language, so he called his son. Solomon Worku was sitting in his downtown Dallas office when the call came. 27 years old. MBA from Columbia. Clean-cut, tailored gray suit. He spoke English without a trace of accent. He managed a portfolio of investments worth over $200 million. The proceeds from his father's restaurant empire, plus years of strategic reinvestment. "Baba, they're trying to evict me." Solomon had been waiting for this call. Not with dread, with anticipation. 6 months earlier, when Victor's campaign first began, Solomon had quietly approached Frank Moody through a shell corporation called Highland Equity Partners. He offered to buy the strip mall property. All of it. Every unit, every lease, the parking lot, the land. Frank didn't ask many questions. The offer was 30% above market value. Frank saw dollar signs and signed the papers. He had no idea who he was selling to. The strip mall, including Hale's Prime, Rosa's Blooms, the nail salon, the phone repair shop, the insurance office, and Makita's kitchen, was now owned by Highland Equity Partners, which was owned by Solomon Worku, which meant it was owned by the family of the taxi driver they were trying to evict. "Baba," Solomon said, They can't evict you. We own the building. I know. I'm my son. Then why do you sound so calm? Because your mother told me to wait. She said let them show the world who they are. Then we show them who we are. They have shown themselves now. So it's time? Tadesse was quiet for a long moment. Invite everyone, the landlord, the steakhouse man, all the tenants. Tell them the new owner wants to meet them. Saturday morning, in the parking lot. And you, Baba? Where will you be? I'll be in my taxi, where I always am. Almaz didn't wait for Saturday. When she heard about the eviction notice, she went to war. Not with fists, with community. She posted on every social media platform she had. She told the story of Tadesse, the quiet taxi driver who opened a restaurant in honor of his late wife. The man who served free meals on opening day. The man who learned every regular customer's name. The man who cooked his dead wife's grandmother's recipes in a strip mall kitchen and never complained about anything. She told the story of Victor, the steakhouse owner who filed false health complaints, pressured the landlord, organized a freeze-out campaign, and was now trying to evict a grieving widower from a restaurant named after his dead wife. The post went viral in Dallas within 48 hours. 3,000 shares, 800 comments. Local news picked it up. A reporter from WFAA showed up at Makita's kitchen with a camera crew. Tadesse didn't want to be on camera. Almaz convinced him, Mr. Worku, people need to see your face. They need to hear your voice. Let them see who they're fighting for. Tadesse stood in front of his restaurant, the crooked sign behind him, the photograph of Makita visible through the window. He spoke slowly. His accent was thick. He paused often to find the right English words. My wife, she asked me before she die. I take her mother's food and give it to people. Not for money, for love. I'm just a taxi driver. I drive all day. I cook all night. This restaurant is all I have left of her. Please, don't take it from me. The segment aired on the evening news. Dallas exploded. The next morning, there was a line outside Makita's kitchen that stretched around the strip mall. 112 people showed up for a restaurant with 4 tables. Tadesse cooked for 6 hours straight. Almaz organized volunteers. Rosa brought flowers, enough for every table and the sidewalk. People came from across the city. They came from Fort Worth. They came from Arlington. They came because a quiet man with a thick accent loved his wife so much that he built her dream with his own hands, and someone was trying to take it away. And they came because they were angry. Victor watched from across the street through the window of Hale's Prime. His dining room was half empty. His customers were posting on social media about supporting Makita's kitchen instead. His Yelp page was getting flooded with 1-star reviews from people who had never eaten there. This is getting out of hand, Diane said. Victor's jaw tightened. It's a taxi driver and a bunch of people who eat $12 chicken. It'll blow over. It didn't blow over. It was just getting started. Saturday morning arrived clear and warm. Solomon had sent letters to every tenant in the strip mall. Professional letterhead. Highland Equity Partners. The new ownership group was requesting a mandatory meeting in the parking lot at 10 a.m. to discuss lease terms and property improvements. Victor received his letter and laughed. New ownership? Frank sold the building? That idiot. He told Diane he would attend to make sure the new owners understood the importance of maintaining standards in the strip mall. He meant removing Tadesse. By 9:45, every tenant was gathered in the parking lot. Rosa stood near her flower shop door holding a small bouquet nervously. The nail salon owner and the phone repair shop owner stood together whispering. The insurance agent checked his watch. Frank Moody stood in the back sweating through his shirt. He had taken his payout and was there only because he was curious who had bought his building. Victor stood at the front, arms folded, sunglasses on. He looked like a man who expected to be in charge of whatever was about to happen. At exactly 10 a.m., a black Mercedes S-Class pulled into the parking lot. Clean, polished, expensive. Solomon stepped out. 27 years old, tall, lean, dark brown skin, tailored charcoal suit, white shirt, no tie, Italian leather shoes. He carried a single leather folder. Victor sized him up immediately. Young, black, probably a representative for some investment group. Good morning, everyone, Solomon said. His voice was calm, clear, professional. My name is Solomon Worku. I'm the managing director of Highland Equity Partners. We are the new owners of this property. Frank Moody's face went pale. Worku. The same last name as the taxi driver. Victor didn't catch it. Not yet. Solomon continued. I've called this meeting to introduce myself and to discuss the future of this property. But first, I want to introduce you to someone. He turned toward the far end of the parking lot. A dented blue taxi was parked in the last spot. The same taxi that had been parked there every day for 3 years. The same taxi everyone had seen and ignored. The driver's door opened slowly. Tadessa Worku stepped out. But he didn't look like the man they knew. He was wearing a hand-tailored navy blue suit, a crisp white dress shirt, a deep gold tie, Italian leather shoes. His beard was trimmed sharp. His posture was straight. His shoulders were back. He walked across the parking lot slowly, the way he always moved, unhurried, patient. But now every step carried a weight that hadn't been visible before. He reached Solomon. Solomon handed him the leather folder. Tadesse opened it and removed a single sheet of paper. Then he looked up at the group. The parking lot was silent. My name is Tadessa Worku, he said. His accent was still thick. His English was still broken, but his voice carried across that parking lot like a drumbeat. 3 years I drive taxi in this city. 3 years I come to this parking lot. 3 years you see me and you see nothing. A taxi driver, an immigrant, a man with bad English and old shoes. He paused. His eyes moved to Victor. You call my restaurant a shack. You report me to the health department with lies. You tell the other businesses to not speak to me. You tell the landlord to take my home. Victor's arms unfolded slowly. His sunglasses came off. My wife asked me to build this restaurant. She was dying when she asked me. She said take her mother's food and give it to people, for love, not for money. I promised her, and I keep my promises. Tadesse held up the sheet of paper. Before I drive taxi, I build 42 restaurants in East Africa. I sell them for $180 million. The parking lot went completely silent. Frank Moody's mouth fell open. 6 months ago, my son bought this building, every store, every lease, this parking lot, this land. He looked directly at Victor. Your steakhouse pays rent to me now. Victor Hale's face drained of every drop of color. His legs shifted. His hand reached for the hood of the nearest car to steady himself. Diane grabbed his arm. The man you tried to destroy, owns the building you work in. The taxi driver you laughed at decides if you stay or if you go. Tadesse lowered the paper. The silence lasted 11 seconds. Almaz counted later. 11 seconds where nobody breathed. Then Rosa Gutierrez started crying. Not sad tears, relief tears, justice tears. She clutched her bouquet of yellow flowers to her chest and let the tears come. The nail salon owner covered her mouth. The phone repair shop owner stared at the ground. Frank Moody looked like he might pass out. And Victor Hale, for the first time in his loud, arrogant life, had absolutely nothing to say. Solomon spoke next. His voice was professional and precise. Highland Equity Partners will be reviewing all lease agreements over the next 30 days. Tenants who have operated in good faith will receive renewed leases at fair market rates. Tenants who have engaged in harassment, discrimination, or bad faith conduct toward any other tenant will have their leases reviewed under different terms. He looked at Victor. We encourage all tenants to operate with respect and integrity going forward. The meeting was over. Tadesse turned and walked back toward Makita's kitchen. As he passed Rosa, she held out the bouquet of yellow flowers. For your tables, she whispered. Tadesse took the flowers. His eyes were wet. Yellow means friendship, he said. He walked inside. He placed the flowers on the table nearest Makita's photograph. He looked at her face, her smile. The kitchen in Addis Ababa behind her. 1999. Yeah, I kept my promise, he whispered. They laughed. But I kept my promise. 6 months after the parking lot meeting, Makita's Kitchen had become the most talked about restaurant in Dallas. Not because of marketing, not because of investors, not because of Instagram influencers, because of the food, because of the story, and because of the man who cooked every plate with the same love he had cooked for his wife every night while she was dying. The Dallas Morning News featured Tadesse on the front page of the food section. The headline read, "The taxi driver who cooked for love." The article told the full story. Makita, the empire, the sale, the taxi, the strip mall, the harassment, the reveal. It was shared over 50,000 times. Our food critics who had never set foot in a strip mall restaurant drove to East Dallas and waited in line. They wrote reviews that used words like transcendent and spiritually nourishing and the best Dora Watt in the state of Texas. Tadesse didn't read the reviews. Solomon showed them to him. Tadesse smiled and said the same thing every time. Makita's recipes, not mine. The strip mall transformed around him. Rosa's Blooms doubled its business from the foot traffic. The nail salon thrived. The phone repair shop hired 2 new employees. The parking lot was full every day. Tadesse kept the rents fair. He didn't raise them. He didn't punish the businesses that had frozen him out. When the nail salon owner came to him with tears in her eyes, apologizing for ignoring him, Tadesse simply said, "You were afraid. I understand fear. Come eat with me." She came. She ate. She cried again. But this time from the Dora Watt. Victor Hale's world contracted in the opposite direction. His lease was renewed. Solomon didn't evict him. But the terms were market rate with standard escalation clauses and a strict code of conduct addendum that prohibited harassment or interference with any other tenant. Victor signed it because he had no choice. But Hale's Prime never recovered its reputation. The social media storm had branded Victor as a bully. His Yelp page was buried in negative reviews. His regular customers, the dealmakers and the old money crowd, quietly stopped coming. Not because of the food, because of the optics. Nobody wanted to be associated with the man who tried to destroy a grieving widower's restaurant. Within 8 months, Hale's Prime closed. Victor put up a "for lease" sign and disappeared. The space sat empty for 2 months. Then Tadesse approached Solomon with an idea. "Buy it." "The steakhouse space?" "Yes, I want to expand. More tables. A bigger kitchen. A private dining room." Solomon smiled. "Baba, you said Mama wanted humble." Tadesse looked at the empty steakhouse across the street. Then he looked at the photograph of Makita on the wall. "Your mother wanted humble. She didn't say small. She said feed people with love. I need more room to love." Solomon bought the space. Tadesse knocked down the wall between the buildings. He kept the plastic chairs. He kept the paper menus. He kept the hand-painted sign. He kept Makita's photograph on the wall. But now Makita's kitchen had 80 seats, a kitchen 3 times the size, and a private dining room with 1 table in the center and 1 photograph on the wall. Makita. Smiling. 1999. The dented blue taxi stayed parked in the strip mall parking lot. Tadesse never sold it. He never drove it again either. He just left it there, in the same spot, where it had always been. When customers asked about it, he always said the same thing. "That taxi reminds me who I am. A man who drives. A man who cooks. A man who keeps his promises." Almaz organized a 1-year anniversary celebration for the restaurant. The entire neighborhood came. 300 people in the parking lot. Ethiopian food. Eritrean coffee. Mexican flowers from Rosa. Music. Dancing. Children running between tables. Tadesse stood at the edge of the crowd watching. Solomon stood beside him. "Baba, Mama would be proud." Tadesse was quiet. "She's here," he said. "Every plate I serve. Every person who sits at those tables. Every time someone closes their eyes after the first bite of her grandmother's Dora Watt. She's here." He wiped his eyes with the back of his weathered hand. She was always here. Somewhere in Dallas, Victor Hale sat in a rented apartment eating takeout from a plastic container. His steakhouse was gone. His reputation was gone. His wife had filed for separation after the public humiliation became unbearable for her social circle. He had laughed at a taxi driver, and the taxi driver had bought his building, taken his customers, expanded into his space, and won the love of an entire city. Not with money, not with power, not with revenge. With food, with patience, with a promise to a woman he loved more than anything in the world. Fate doesn't shout. Fate doesn't rush. Fate just keeps the score. And in a strip mall on Garland Road in East Dallas, the score was settled. Not with cruelty, not with destruction, but with a plate of Dora Watt and a photograph on the wall and a dented blue taxi that never moved from its spot. Because some promises are bigger than empires, and some taxi drivers are bigger than the men who laugh at them. You cannot look at a man and decide his value based on his accent or his shoes or the car he drives. You cannot mock someone's dream and expect the world to reward you for it. And you cannot tear down a house that love built, because love rebuilds faster than hate can destroy. Tadesse Worku kept his promise, and fate kept the score. If you believe that the humble always rise and the proud always fall, subscribe. Because in these stories, fate never forgets. And neither do we. Fate and folktales. We'll see you in the next one.